There's a tramp sitting on my doorstep, trying to waste his time.
My name is Joe Shoup. I live in Angola, Indiana. I've lived here for 60-odd years. The whole time I've lived here in 3 different houses, I've always had cats.
On the other side, and she looks a trifle jealous. She's been an outcast all her life. Me, I'm waiting so patiently, lying on the floor.
So even as a child growing up, there were always cats in my house. I developed an early fondness and interest in them, and I think over that lifetime of being around cats and with cats, I've just gained an insight and a knowledge of them that would be hard to learn from a book. I don't think I have any special insight into cats or the nature of cats. I'm sure there are many people who've been raised around dogs who have that same understanding of dogs just from day in, day out, year after year interaction with them, or horses. But I do find them to be a very interesting animal and a very satisfying animal to live with. I think they're the best pet.
Me, I'm waiting so patiently, lying on the floor. I'm just trying to do this jigsaw puzzle.
Cats are thought to have thrown in with humans maybe 6,000 or 7,000 years ago when in Egypt along the Nile agriculture started and rice began to be grown and stored. And obviously stored grain attracts rodents. The rodents attracted the small desert wildcats, which would come in and prey on the rodents that were eating the grain. The Egyptian farmers quickly realized that that was a very beneficial thing, so obviously they made cats kind of a object of worship. They worship the sun, which grows the grain, and they worship cats, which keeps the predators out of the grain.
Me, I'm waiting so patiently, lying on the floor. I'm just trying to do this.
Cats, I think, are much closer to their wild nature. Cats are domesticated animals in a way, that's true, and they're meant to live with humans. They've evolved to live with humans. But when you look at a cat, there is a wildness not too deep below the surface. Whereas if you look at a dog, I mean, he has a wolf heritage, but it's way deeper and not as accessible. A cat can revert to its wild feline nature pretty quickly. My house is set up so my cats have access to the outdoors anytime they want through a cat door, which I have in a basement window. That cat door is easily removable, and then the sliding window can slide shut so it's perfectly sealed. But I just usually leave it as a cat door summer and winter, and the cats can come and go into the basement, like I said, and if the basement door to the kitchen is open, they can come and go from the house as they please. But they always have a nice, comfortable, warm place to come in the basement, where there's always water and bedding for them.
I'm burning up their pensions and shouting, it's not there.
Years ago, I got my first dog, a Papillon. The dog spirit, the canine spirit's really charming and really has been very interesting to contrast with the feline spirit. But dogs are ultimately dependent. You can't just let a dog outside. You have to watch them, you have to have them on a leash, you have to have them confined in your yard at least. They can't catch their own food if you forget to feed them. They're just a lot more dependent than a cat.
Me, I'm just waiting so patiently with my woman on the floor.
I do have one female cat, Pearl, that is a bit of a bully. She does try to bully the new cats, and if they react in a scared way, then there's trouble. If they stand up to her, trouble's over. It's kind of like the classic standing up to a bully. And Shiloh, who's a rather small cat, never had any problem with that. It was just bring it on, and so she doesn't have any trouble with the bully cat at all. My latest cat is a bobtail, first bobtail I ever had. Earlier this summer, about 3 months ago, there was a knock on the door. It was after 5 in the afternoon. Knock on the door. There was a guy out there, and he said, "I think someone might have run over one of your cats." I said, "Well, where?" And he pointed down the block to a telephone pole. Said, "Right there at the base of that telephone pole." So I said, "Thanks." I didn't know the guy. I ran down there, and at the base of the telephone pole was a little golden kitten. Looked horrible. Had grease spots all over her, and looked like her tail had been chopped off. I thought maybe she'd been hit by a car. So I scooped her up and brought her home. The grease was just axle grease. I think she'd been sleeping under a car, and that eventually cleaned off. The tail had not been amputated or cut off at all. She's a bobtail. She's a natural, and the bobtail's been an interesting cat. Her hind legs are longer than a normal one, than other cats, and so it gives her kind of a hop like a rabbit, and she will tend to kind of hop along sometimes instead of walk or run like another cat would. Very intelligent and very inquisitive. She is just about on the verge of being let outside on her own. It's always a little dicey when you get a new cat to let them out for the first time, hoping they don't bolt and run off. And some cats get overly stimulated on their first time out and just take off. So I've been working with her actually on a leash for the first time at my wife's request, because she's particularly fond of Ella, the bobtail, and didn't want me doing my usual just kind of letting them out and enticing them back in with food to get them used to things. And so I've been working on a leash. It's actually worked quite well. She seems to ignore the leash altogether and just prowl around. So she's been a fun cat to have too. So I just find it to be satisfying as a pet owner that cats are sort of leading an independent life, a parallel life along with yours. This is their natural environment, their natural life, and you're just kind of there to give them a little helping hand.